Okay, so back to the protocol. Early in the morning, birds can be laying eggs. You don't want to come upon mom when she's in the middle of laying an egg. That's just not a comfortable situation for anyone. You also don't want to check nest boxes at night, as birds go into the nest to roost and you don't want to risk scaring them away. Really, the best time to check a nest box is the best time to be outside, which is in the middle of an afternoon on a beautiful sunny day. Owls, of course, are the exception here. Avoid nests during early incubation. Females do not like to be disturbed in the first few days of incubation. It is hard to tell when a female has started incubating her eggs, but with tree swallows in some of our boxes, there will be a time when you may open the box and you'll find the female on the nest and she won't leave. If that is the case, you should close the box and walk away. When monitoring open cup nests, such as a robin's nest, it's best to observe the nest from a distance with a pair of binoculars and approach only when the female is gone. I think the best time to monitor nests is always when the adult is not present, but especially during early incubation, this is important. Do not approach the nest when the young are close to fledging. When young are bothered during this stage, they may leave the nest before they're ready to do so. This is a very bad situation, and we do want to try our best to avoid this from happening. Young that fledge prematurely usually do not stay in the nest even if you try to return them. I've noticed a particular problem with house wrens. House wren nestlings I like to call popcorn babies because they do have a tendency to jump out of the box without you being aware of it or expecting it. It will just happen and it will take you by surprise. And it's a very bad thing because if the fledglings jump out of the box before they're ready to go, they're going to run off into the woods and they are at a higher risk of being depredated. So we should really make every effort to avoid this from happening, even if that means we're not collecting complete data for NestWatch, even if it means we don't know what's going on inside the box. It's much more important to be concerned about the safety and well-being of our birds, and we definitely want our nestlings to fledge with parental supervision when they're ready to do so. So with house wrens in particular, I generally stop monitoring the boxes after about 13 days. This is when their feathers are fully formed and they're ready to go or approaching that time. And so I'll just monitor the box by looking with binoculars to see what the female is doing. I might stick a mirror in there just to see if I see a face, or listen for some peeping, but I generally won't open the box or disturb them in any way. To a lesser extent, we do have this problem with bluebirds as well, so it is important to be mindful of bluebirds when they're approaching the fledging time as well. With bluebirds, you can maybe stick the mirror in the box, in the slot on the top, just to see if you see any eyes looking at you. You can very, very, very slowly and carefully just crack open the box to see if you see a fledgling inside. And those are ways that you can check to see that the nestlings are still in there and that they're still alive, or at least there's one, without having to risk premature fledging by opening the box and doing a full nest check. I have not experienced this problem too much with tree swallows, and that's probably because their legs are so short that they're not able to jump out of the box the way that the house wrens and the bluebirds do. So just keep that in mind. Be mindful. It's important to keep records of what's going on in your boxes for this reason as well. So when I'm keeping my paper tracker and I have a house wren nest that's after 13 days, I'll put like a star or a big box on it to remind myself not to open that box. Just walk past it, see if you see any signs that they're still in there. And it's okay to enter unknown for that data. You're doing it for a good reason. Avoid checking nests during bad weather. If it's cold, damp, or rainy, just come back another day. It's not pleasant to be out there anyway, but when you flush a bird from the box and it's raining, the bird is going to get wet and then they will return to the box. And we do have concerns about the nestlings catching a chill, and we do not want our babies to catch a chill. We don't want water in the box anyway because, it can just make the situation mildewy and kind of damp and uncomfortable. So definitely if it's raining, don't bother checking them, just come back another time. Don't lead predators to the nest. This is interesting because it's something that never occurred to me until I took a NestWatch training myself. Predators can be watching you and they can be watching what you're doing. So if you're, let's say, monitoring a robin's nest in a tree, and there's like 7 crows sitting in another tree looking at you, that's not the best time to monitor that robin's nest. Just be mindful that predators can be watching you and they can be looking and seeing what you're doing. It's also one way to do that to avoid attracting predators is to not leave a dead end trail of trampled grass, and you can do that by taking a different path every time to the nest. You should approach nests with care. It's important not to startle the birds. Being a bird is scary enough. We don't want to make it any scarier for them. So before you approach a nest, and this would be the case for an open cup nest, try to see if the parent is sitting on it. For me, myself, if I see a parent on a nest, I don't mess with it at all. I will just monitor, I'll mark that with binoculars. My nest check involved the female on the nest, and that's what I'll note. But with a nest box, we don't really know what's going on in the box. So what you ought to do when you go up to the nest box is make a little bit of noise on your way up there, but nothing scary. Just kind of have a conversation with the person that you're with. Not gently knock on the side of the box just to give the adult a chance to fly out of the box. And then you can slowly and quietly open the doors to see what's going on inside. Opening the doors slowly is good for the babies, but it's also good for you because you really don't even know what's in there. So it's important to remember that these are wild birds and we should remain cautious around them. Do not force a bird off the nest. If a sitting bird is on the nest and it won't leave, like our tree swallows, don't pick it up and insist on seeing what's under it. Just make a note. There is actually a note in NestWatch that you can make, female remained on nest, and you can just note that and walk away. And do not handle birds or eggs. It is against the law and unnecessary to touch eggs or birds. Our nestlings are delicate. We don't need to touch them. They don't need us to touch them. We can do everything that we need to do using a hand mirror and our eyes. So it's just important to remember that it is against the law to handle them, and the only people who can handle them legally are people with special permits. Here are some additional resources for you to learn more about nestbox monitoring and NestWatch in greater detail. There is a wonderful, updated for 2020 nest monitoring manual that is on the NestWatch site. Go to www.nestwatch.org, click on the Learn tab, and it is the third option down in the menu. This manual can help answer some of the more detailed questions you may have. There is also a great video which demonstrates how to monitor a nest box, and I will post a link to that video in the comments below. And of course, you can always contact me with questions, and I'll be happy to help. After becoming familiar with the Code of Conduct, participants will take a 10-question quiz. This helps to reinforce what they've learned to ensure that they will be safe and effective nestbox monitors. After you've reviewed the training, please feel free to reach out to me for the quiz. Alternatively, if it's easier for you, you can create your own login to NestWatch and take the quiz on their site. We've reached the end of part 2. Join me in the last video where I will talk about finding nests, NestWatch data collection, and we'll explain the science of how these data are used and why this project is so valuable. Thank you for watching.